I like when people say what they need to say. He's at a Catholic college.
Yeah.
He's a staunch Catholic. These are his beliefs, and he's welcome to them. I don't have to believe him.
Right.
I don't have to accept them. The ladies that were sitting in that audience do not have to accept him. The same way we want respect when Colin Kaepernick takes a knee.
Right.
We want to give respect to people whose ideas are different from ours.
Whoopi Goldberg and the other hosts of The View discussed Harrison Butker's commencement speech that went viral because it's been very controversial. They touch on some good points, but I think other members of the media and people on social media have missed two major points about this. And so we're going to listen to what they had to say, and then we're going to get into this.
It is graduation season all over America, and Super Bowl winning Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker delivered a commencement address at Benedictine College in Kansas that has sparked quite a petition because they want to get him booted from the team. Take a look.
I think it is you, the women, who have had the most diabolical lies told to you. How many of you are sitting here now, about to cross this stage, and are thinking about all the promotions and titles you are going to get in your career? Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world. I'm on this stage today and able to be the man I am because I have a wife who leans into her vocation. All of my success is made possible because a girl I met in band class back in middle school would convert to the faith, become my wife, and embrace one of the most important titles of all, homemaker.
So the NFL released a statement that he gave this speech in his personal capacity, and the NFL does not share his views. So, listen, I like when people say what they need to say. He's at a Catholic college.
Yeah.
He's a staunch Catholic.
Okay, this is the first thing here that I would completely disagree with. He's a staunch Catholic. I'm Catholic. My views are very different than this guy. I went to a school run by the Sisters of the Visitation, and I'll get more into this in a bit. But what I learned from them was nothing like what Harrison Butker is saying. So I think people who are not Catholic in the media are painting this as, and the people that completely agree with him, that all Catholics agree with him, and he's not. That's not the case. He's very much a minority. And I don't even know that I would agree that he is a member of the current Catholic Church, because he wants to do the quote-unquote traditional Latin Mass, which hasn't been a part of the Catholic Church in my lifetime and his lifetime. They stopped doing that way before Harrison Butker was born. So I don't think you're a mainstream Catholic if you're wanting to do the Latin Mass.
These are his beliefs, and he's welcome to them. I don't have to believe him.
Right.
I don't have to accept them. The ladies that were sitting in that audience do not have to accept him. The same way we want respect when Colin Kaepernick takes a knee.
Right.
We want to give respect to people whose ideas are different from ours, because the man who says he wants to be president, you know who?
Yeah.
He says the way to act is to take away people's right to say how they feel. We don't want to be that. We don't want to be those people. So I'm okay with him saying whatever he says, and the women who are sitting there, if they take his advice, good for them, they'll be happy. If they don't, good for them, they'll be happy a different way. That's my attitude.
So
Now, Whoopi's totally right about this. He has, he has the freedom to say what he had to say. This church invited him there, I assume, knowing that he was going to say some of these things. And the people calling for him to lose his job, that's nuts. That's ridiculous. That's if the Kansas City Chiefs decide that they don't like his performance as a player, then they can get rid of him. But the people calling for him to lose his job, that is insane. The one big question that I've had that I haven't heard anybody address is, he was doing this at a college commencement. This was a college commencement speech. Why would you make this negative, divisive speech? And it's not just about the homemaking stuff and the stay-at-home, being a stay-at-home wife. He says much more offensive things in his speech, I believe, and I'm going to get into the actual text of it here in a second. But I don't see a college graduation as the time or the place to do this. There's nothing uplifting or positive about this speech. At no point is he saying, hey, you're going to go out into the world and do great things, and you can show how great Catholics are by your actions, by being a good person and doing the right thing and leading by example. But he doesn't say any of that. It's all divisive, attacking different groups and things. So I agree with Whoopi that he's got the right to say what he wants to say. Of course, people have the right to criticize him as well. I think that's a big problem in our country, is that people think if you can say whatever you want, but that doesn't mean that people have to like it. And too many people in our country think that if somebody says, hey, I don't like what you're saying, that that's silencing them or censoring them or canceling them. That's not the case.
Agree with you, and I disagree with you.
That's okay.
So I agree with you that freedom, in the spirit of freedom of speech, I don't want people shut down or fired for things they're willing to say. Yeah. I will break with you on the comparison to Colin Kaepernick for this reason. Colin Kaepernick was standing up for the rights of many and saying in a social justice moment, this is a reminder that we're not there yet. What this man is doing is not just a devout Catholic. This is someone who's practicing something called the traditional Latin Mass.
Yes.
Which is a divergent.
And she's going to get into this here, and she's absolutely right. I've been Catholic my entire life. I know lots and lots of Catholics. I don't know anybody who is wanting to bring back the Latin Mass or is upset because we don't do the Latin Mass. I've experienced the Latin Mass once. They brought it in a special instance at my church, but it's not something that's regularly practiced. So if you are somebody who is going to a church where they're doing the Latin Mass, you're way outside of the mainstream of Catholics.
From the majority of Catholics. It's compared to being cult-like and extremist like some religions in the Middle East.
Absolutely. This guy is an extremist. That's all there is to it.
It's in Asia. So this is a very extreme religion. And what bothers me about that as a Christian is that when people abuse Christianity, they often not only cherry pick from the Bible, they misinterpret and lie by omission, by taking out parts that would have explained something a little better. So what I can say to him as a Christian is if you're using this to oppress a people or hold them down, you're not walking with Jesus. If you are using the religion, if you are more obsessed with the religious rituals and practices than you are with the word of Jesus, you're not walking with Jesus. And if you're using it for the judgment of others and as a weapon to beat people down, you're also not walking with Jesus. So I would really encourage him to find the best parts of faith and not diverge into extremist beliefs.
100%. She is absolutely spot on. She's absolutely correct with what she is saying. This was a divisive speech. This speech could have gone viral for how great it was. For even people who are not Catholic or not Christian to say, wow, this guy has a positive message and look at him. He is this very successful man playing a sport where he's paid millions of dollars, and he is standing up and doing the right thing and trying to lead by example. Instead, he's trying to tear people down. So we're going to take a look at the actual text of the speech. So this is early on in the speech. This is just the fourth paragraph. Again, this is supposed to be a speech telling college kids, hey, you're going to go out in the world to do great things. Our own nation is led by a man who publicly and proudly proclaims his Catholic faith, but at the same time is delusional enough to make the sign of the cross during a pro-abortion rally. He has been so vocal in his support for the murder of innocent babies that I'm sure to many people it appears that you can be Catholic, be both Catholic and pro-choice. He is not alone. From the man behind the COVID lockdowns to the people pushing dangerous gender ideologies, onto the youth of America, they all have a glaring thing in common. They are Catholic. This is an important reminder that being Catholic alone doesn't cut it. These are the sorts of things we are told in polite society to not bring up. You know, the difficult and unpleasant things. But if you're going to be men and women for this time in history, we need to stop pretending that the Church of Nice is a winning proposition. We must always speak and act in charity, but never mistake charity for cowardice. Dude, you don't get to speak for other Catholics. He's saying attacks on Joe Biden. You don't have to like Joe Biden or like his policies, but you don't get to determine whether he's basically saying he's not a real Catholic. And if you believe these things that Joe Biden says, you're not a real Catholic. Our Catholic faith has always been countercultural. He's right about that, not in the way that he thinks. Our Lord, along with countless followers, were all put to death for their adherence to her teachings. The world around us says that we should keep our beliefs to ourselves whenever they go against the tyranny of diversity, equity, and inclusion. What a crock of shit. Christ was a counterculture figure because of the people that he was hanging out with. He was hanging out with undesirable people in society. He was including those people in his flock, people that Harrison Butker today would be against. So I don't think this guy understands anything about what the real teachings of Christianity are. Wonder what his teammates think about the tyranny of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Wonder if he has these conversations with them. He would probably say that he doesn't care because those are worldly views or whatever. But what in Christianity and Catholicism, when was Jesus preaching about the tyranny of diversity, equity, and inclusion? He was talking about loving your neighbor, clothing the naked, feeding the hungry, welcoming the immigrant. All of these things are conspicuously absent from Harrison Butker's speech. I'm going to go back to what I said earlier about when I was a kid and I went to a school run by the Sisters of Visitation. And those women, most of them aren't around anymore. I've never known anybody in my life who more demonstrated what it was to be Catholic, what it was to be a Christian. Everything with them was about loving your neighbor, loving everybody that you come into contact with. There was never any of this, we're on this team and the other team, they're evil, all this evil out in the world with these different groups. It was none of that. One thing that stuck with me my entire life is one of the sisters one time said, everyone you meet, you must be kind to them and love them because you never know when the person that you encounter could be Jesus in disguise. So you have to treat everyone with respect, love, and kindness. We need a whole lot more of that in this world and not this divisiveness from people like Harrison Butker. Bill Maher talked about this a little bit too. We're going to look at a little clip of that here.
Why does anyone still use ponchos if they never actually work? All you need is the bearskin waterproof tactical jacket, because this thing...
But I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world. I don't see what the big crime is. Some of you talking to the women here, some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world. Okay, that seems fairly modern. But I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world. I don't see what the big crime is. I really don't. And I think this is part of the problem people have with the left, is that lots of people in this country are like this. Like he's saying, some of you may go on to lead successful careers, but a lot of you are excited about this other way that everybody used to be. And now can't that just be a choice too? And I feel like they feel very put upon, like there's only one way to be a good person, and that's to get an advanced degree from one of those factories like Harvard.
So again, what Bill Maher's saying is not really all that dissimilar from what Whoopi Goldberg and these other members of The View are saying, that he has a right to say this. Now, Bill Maher goes a little bit further to say that he doesn't see that there's anything wrong with it. And there certainly were people who were upset because they don't think he should be saying this at all. Where I come at this from is the negativity of his message, that he very much is presenting what he thinks is the right way to do things, and he's trying to speak for all Catholics, which I'm offended by that, and I think there are probably a lot of other Catholics around there. Maybe I'm in the minority, I don't know. I don't really care. But a lot of other Catholics out there who say, this guy doesn't speak for me. But what do you think? Do you think the Whoopi Goldberg and the other women on The View, were they totally wrong on this? Do you agree with Harrison Butker? Particularly if you're Catholic, do you agree with Harrison Butker? Because like I say, this is very foreign to me. What Harrison Butker is saying is way more in line with what I would view as fundamentalist evangelical Protestants. This isn't the Catholic Church that I grew up going to school in, going to Mass in. All of the priests in the churches that I attended were always very positive messages, not this divisive thing about presidents and different groups that they dislike and all of that. It's just not something that I've experienced in my day-to-day life as a Catholic. But there are certainly plenty of people that don't like Whoopi Goldberg and The View and what they have to say, just as there are people who don't like Harrison Butker. There are millions now who think he's great because of what he said. But what do you think? Make sure to leave a comment, give me a like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.